Hello, everybody. This is Lee Griffin, and I'm about to tell my story. It's a very hard story. It's a story of trying hard to be a father, to be a role model, to be there in my child's life. When I first met my daughter's mother, I thought I was in love. Um, I thought maybe something could be good out of this. And we end up having a daughter. And I tried. I tried hard to make us a family. I moved us to New Orleans. We lived together and we tried, but some relationships just don't work. Um, and it's in the best interest not to live in a house where there's consistent arguing. Um, it's just not a good atmosphere for a family. So I can understand why people get divorces and people separate, because you go in with good intentions, but then when reality hits, it's something else. So we separated. Now, one thing that I always promised, and I made this promise to her, was that I was always going to be a father in my child's life. We don't have to be together to be parents. And I lived up to that. Whenever she needed something, the only thing she had to do was call me. I want to be the first one to give it. I end up finding love. Somebody who was compatible with me. And that's my wife now, Renetta. Little did I know that this will begin a downward spiral of the relationship between me and my mother's daughter. And at the beginning of my marriage, everything was okay. We was co-parenting well. My daughter was coming to see me every week. I was still giving money as she needed for her care and for things that my daughter may need. And we had seemed to have a good co-parenting relationship. But at some point, there began to be tensions between me and the mother. All of a sudden, I wasn't doing enough. All of a sudden, um, I wasn't. I wasn't I didn't meet her expectations of what she expected out of me as a father. And I knew something was about to go wrong. I knew it was about to get worse. Um, she eventually went and put me on child support, which was fine, because when child support people, when they called me, I told them I'll be right down. And I never asked for a paternity test. I knew this was my daughter. I never asked, you know, for. I pretty much didn't do all the shady stuff that brothers do to women who put them on child support, because I feel like if that's my child, then I should financially be obligated to take care of her. And I still believe that. So I didn't try to uh, maneuver around the system and take advantage of this flawed system that we have. I did what I had to do. If they wanted me on child support, that was fine. Tell me what I owe based on my income, and they told me what I owed, and I just said okay, and I signed the paperwork. I didn't go to court. They filed everything, and boom, child support. Not a problem to me, because that's my daughter. So, you know, trying to put the pieces back together and just maintain a relationship with my daughter. And then the first allegation. The first allegation was my wife scratched my daughter's arm. And she reported that to the school. She didn't file a police report. It was something with the school, and she had my daughter say that my wife scratched her arm. And I say that she had her to say that because I don't think that Jayla would admit something like that on her own. Those was false. Nothing came out of that. No police report. She didn't file a police report. She didn't do any of that stuff. And I'm like any parent. If I feel that somebody injured my child, or I feel somebody intentionally caused bodily harm to my child, then I'm notifying the authorities. That didn't happen. So that shows you that that wasn't true. Okay, so we're moving on. At that point, we really start being careful of what we do around my daughter and things like that. So I ended up getting offered a job in Ohio, and it was a great move for me to take, and it would put my family in a better financial situation and give us some more experiences. And so I took the job, and when I took that job, I guess you can say that I was my head was in the clouds because I thought, it's no way that this woman would not let me see my child. Even if I move away, she would do what she have to do. That wasn't the case. I had to come to New Orleans and file a custody change, and I was able to get summer visitations, holiday visitations, because I was living out of state. And I was given those visitations. She tried to not want me to have those. She tried to maneuver everything. She didn't even want me to see my daughter in the summers. She didn't even want me to let me see my daughter on the holidays. So I was ordered that first summer came around. Guess what? She didn't care what the court order said. She didn't send me my daughter. She didn't allow me to get my daughter. So I looked at my wife and we made the decision. It's just time to move back to New Orleans. It's time to move back to New Orleans and fight. And I wasn't talking about fighting as far as taking my daughter away from her mom. I was talking about fight for my right to be a parent in my child's life. So we came back and I filed contempt for her not letting me not letting me get my daughter for the holidays. So that was in contempt. And I filed those. So we was for a hearing for the contempts. And she knew she was being accused of contempt. So I said, okay, if she agrees, since I'm back home and we live in the same area and I want shared physical custody of the daughter. And she didn't like that. She didn't like that I would have our daughter half of the time. But it was either agree to this or we can have the hearing and they will listen to the contempts that she knew she willfully denied my access to my daughter. So she agreed to the shared custody, and it was a three days, 2 days schedule. Um, and she didn't want to agree to this, but she had no choice. It was either, well, she had a choice, but she chose not to go forth with the hearing to hear the contempts because she knew she willfully denied my access to my daughter. So 323 goes into effect. Um, right off the bat, it was tension. It was it was a mess. She Every time Jayla came home, she was complaining about something. Her shoes dirty, her washing her hair with a certain type of soap, and you know, and all those things, and it was hard. It was hard, but I felt that my daughter has a right to have both of her parents in her life equally, and I wasn't going to give up on that. So here comes another accusation of abuse. This time it was something involving my daughter, middle area, and she went to the hospital. And I'm gonna tell you this: my daughter, she's she's already been through a lot, and she's just taken her through so much ups and downs. And so the first accusation, uh, Department of Family Services got involved, but they decided that it wasn't enough evidence. She didn't make no direct accusation towards me. It was just that I think it was neglect or something, and the the Department of Children and Family Services didn't investigate it. They just said it didn't warrant merit of investigation. So, um, but during that time, she used that to keep my daughter away from me, and so I filed her in contempt again. So we had the hearing for that, and once again, we go to court, and I wasn't going to drop the contempts this time, but the judge was like, let's try a week. 1 week on, 1 week with the mother, 1 week with the father. Maybe that'll be then a 3 to 2, then a 3, then a 2. So I agreed, and that maybe that's the best too. Let's try that. If she's with me for a week, then maybe it's not all a back and forth, and me and the mother don't have to communicate as much. But the judge also ordered that we have phone visitations with the daughter when the child with the other parent, and she also um, made us communicate through our family wizard, which is a good application. If there's anybody dealing with any co-parenting, I think our family wizard is a good application if both parents are involved or if the court orders both parents to do it. But one parent doing it by themselves with another parent not willing to pay the price for it, then it's no point of being there on that by yourself. It's a co-parenting tool, so that means it takes two parents to make this tool actually work. So the judge ordered us to do that. Well, now, while we was doing a week, another allegation of abuse. This time it was physical abuse. She stated that my daughter told her that I beat her with a belt on her legs and bruises on her legs, and the actual little bumps and bruises that was on her legs, that she took her to the police station and they took pictures of her ankles and her feet, and the marks that was on the ankles and the feet, They were previous mosquito bites. They were previous ant bites. I remember my daughter coming home and she took her shoes and her socks off, and I'm looking at her feet and I said, "What happened to your feet?" And she was like, "Oh, I was at a park for school. We was on a field trip, and ants, they fire ants got on me and they really bit me up." And she said that her mother was there, and those are the same marks that she made the police take pictures of my daughter's foot, and had my daughter say that those marks that was previously from mosquito bites and ant bites, those was the marks that her father, put on her using a belt. That hurt. I would never, ever hit my children in a way where it'll cause bruises and marks on them. I know people that been through abuse, and I always told myself, never my children. So she filed a protection order on me for physical abuse, and I went 2 months without seeing my daughter. 2 months. Finally, the hearing comes. DCFS did their investigation. JPSO did their investigation. All invalid. They had nothing stating that there was any abuse. And so the restraining order was dismissed. And Jayla, my daughter, she came back home. And now I'm sitting here telling you guys that now there's allegation that I sexually abused my daughter. And it hurt. It hurt so bad. Because I would never touch my daughter. I would never. And to hear and to see my child's mother is coaching my daughter to say that I touched her inappropriately. It's a nightmare. I'm in a nightmare right now. And I'm just hoping that good prevails over evil. I'm just hoping that all the stuff that I believed growing up, that God overpowers the devil, I hope that's true. Anybody that knows me know how much I love my children. And those who know me, I'm just asking, pray. Keep me and my family lifted up. Most importantly, pray for Jay, because this ain't her fault. This ain't her fault. Thank y'all for listening.